to transmission. Welcome to transmission number 41 on World Crypto Network. Today, I'm talking to Dominic from Bitcoin Vietnam. Hi, Dominic.
Yeah, actually from Frankfurt, also the home community of Theo, but moved to Vietnam last year and working on the project here now in Saigon.
Yeah, that's right. So you're originally based out of Frankfurt. It doesn't look like you're really from Vietnam. I think we get that. But yeah, that's true. So Dominic was at one of the organizers of the first Bitcoin meetup in Frankfurt in 2013. So that's also a notable fact. And then he moved to Vietnam and started a project, Bitcoin Vietnam. Dominic, how did you end up in Vietnam?
Well, there's actually two reasons. So one reason is we obviously also tried to do something with Bitcoin in Germany, but it's basically pretty much impossible over there right now with the current regulatory situation. And the second thing is, I mean, Vietnam is an interesting market anyway. You have a pretty young population here. 70% of the people are below 30 years old. The smartphone adoption is rising every year, and in general, the economy is trending upwards. So very interesting market. And the second reason is also, of course, I have some family ties here, which makes it easier to entry into this market. And it's also easier to operate a business in many ways than, for example, in Germany. It took us a week to register the business here and fill out the forms, while in Germany it's months and you cannot get anything done in Bitcoin. So yeah, working on this project now since late 2013. The platform is up and running since March 2013. So 2 weeks after Mt. Gox collapsed, this gave us some pressure back then, because the government also was a bit looking suspiciously at what they are trying to do. Just this Mt. Gox collapse, big news, and then 2 weeks later we are opening up the shop. A bit unfortunate timing maybe, but well, around, it's slowly growing. And yeah, especially the last 2-3 weeks, when also the price is now rising, we see that the inflow of new users is rising 50 to 100% more than we had before. So you can see already that, yeah, demand is increasing.
Okay, great. Yeah, you did mention the legal and bureaucratic issues with Bitcoin and starting a business in Germany as compared to Vietnam. What is the current status of Bitcoin and regulation in Vietnam?
Now Bitcoin is completely unregulated in Vietnam. We also are talking to quite a few of these government agencies and ministries, but none of them so far see that Bitcoin somehow fits into their jurisdiction. The state bank says it's not a currency, so they don't regulate it. The Ministry of Trade also says it's not a good or service, so they are also not regulating it. So right now there is not any authority which really says, okay, this is something we see that we have to do something about it. Right now, Bitcoin is also still quite small in Vietnam, so it's still more a niche product. So at the moment, they also don't see really the need to put the effort into regulate it, because it's just not popular enough yet. I mean, if we see now another bubble approaching, then it may look differently. Back then in 2014, actually the state bank were thinking about doing something about it, but then the big hype was a bit over, and they also put it lower on their priority list to do something. So at the moment, it's completely unregulated. And it also means in Vietnam, as long as you don't run a business which is outright illegal, selling drugs or something like this, you can run a business. It's just a normal company operating, which we are operating here, exchanging Bitcoins for Vietnam dong.
Okay, great. So what is merchant adaption like in Vietnam? Can people use their Bitcoin for anything? I'm sure they can exchange their Bitcoin for Vietnam dollars at your site, but can I use my Bitcoins for anything else in Vietnam?
That's still quite difficult at this stage. I mean, maybe some have seen it. There was this one cafe in Hanoi which accepted it, which was basically the partner of the owner was really pushing it. But since he got out because he had some issues with his family, they are also not really accepting it anymore. There are a few computer stores and stuff like this which accept Bitcoin, but not officially. If you write them an email and you want to pay in Bitcoin, then you might have luck and they accept payments in Bitcoin, but it's not officially somewhere in their homepage. Then we have also a few private individuals, of course, accepting it. We had on our blog, on our homepage, also an interview with Heap, which is a girl which is renting out her flats here in basically Airbnb, but she's also accepting Bitcoin as payment for renting a flat. So if you're coming to Saigon one day, you can rent a flat for paying Bitcoin. And what we also just announced last week, we had basically now the first real merchant signing up here in Vietnam. Future Travel is a travel agency where you can buy cruises, visa, of course, hotel, flight ticket. So the usual portfolio of a travel agency. They are quite happy about accepting Bitcoin because at the moment they may not have many transactions, but when there's a Bitcoin transaction, they know it's final. While with the credit card payments, they have basically every week some hassle with the bank because they get hit all the time by people who try to fraud them. So this is the first business now in Vietnam which is really accepting Bitcoin officially on their homepage. And it's not like this cafe where the owner must be somehow present with his phone in order to pay. Otherwise, the staff don't know about how it works. So that's why we also say, okay, this is now really this first business. And I think from here on, things also will get easier because you need the first one to take the plunge and take also a bit the risk, basically, to be the first one. Because a lot of, as I have said before, you can pay at some business, but you have to email them if you can pay in Bitcoin. This is because a lot of business, they're also not sure what is the regulatory status. Do I get in trouble somehow accepting Bitcoin, whatever. So that's why they choose the path to accept it in a way, but not be really public about it because they have no interest that, they get maybe some searches and visits from the tax office or whatever, because they want to know what's going on there.
Okay, great. So it sounds like, it's still developing, but there, like you said, now there is one larger company that does accept Bitcoin, and of course, some more enthusiast style cafes or computer service providers, computer shop. Yeah, that makes sense. So there's also another good use for Bitcoin, and that is sending money across borders, so remittance. And I believe you guys have started a project involving that, right?
Started cash2vn.com, where you can send now remittance to Vietnam via the Bitcoin network. And I think we also have quite competitive pricing at the moment. We just take like 1% of the exchange fee and another $2, which is basically just the bank wire fee, which we have to cover somehow. So I think this is also the pricing which we need to look for to get to these levels. Because I mean, we have at this Bitcoin conference quite often the people running around and telling, Western Union is taking 10% and whatever, but this is only the exceptions. And this is not the normal price which the people are paying to transfer money to Vietnam. Especially when you have larger communities of Vietnamese people abroad, like in Canada, California, also Germany. They usually all have their community networks somehow, and the fees to send money to Vietnam are really, really quite low. They are somewhere between 0.5 to 2%. So it's also necessary to hit these numbers. 10% Western Union is not a big thing to compete with this, but this is not how the Vietnamese people are sending money usually.
Okay, so you're offering a flat fee for sending money over to Vietnam as opposed to a percent-based fee. Is that right? And just a second while I unmute you. Is that right, Dominic? Okay, now you're unmuted. Tell us again. You're offering it for a flat fee, right?
At the moment we charge these $2, which we have to pay also to the bank to trigger the transfer, and the exchange fee is around just 1% below Bitcoin average. So there's a slight profit which we can also make there, but I think it's really quite competitive, and we, in order to stay at the same levels, basically like these Habala-like systems work from the US, Canada, or something. I mean, you may have some other channels, like we were last year attending also the Bitcoin conference in Tel Aviv and also met some Vietnamese living in Israel. And we have only 400 Vietnamese people living in Israel, so they don't have really these networks, and they are using something like Western Union. So they end up actually paying something like 10%, but it's an exception, and the larger amount of the Vietnamese people living abroad, sending money back home, they pay much lower fees. So that's why we are also in this range located with this project.
Okay, great.
Okay, great.
So what do you see the future being for Bitcoin in Vietnam? Do you see it growing? Is interest growing? Are you getting a lot more people signing up at bitcoinvietnam.com.cn to buy Bitcoins? Are people trading them? Are they holding them? Are they using them for remittance? Why are people buying Bitcoin in Vietnam, and what do you see the future as?
So when I look at our user base, which we had so far, and I mean, when we launched in March 2014, since basically now we had a downtrend, so you didn't really have people investing in Bitcoin because the price was going down. So the people who were buying Bitcoin from us were usually really using it to buy some stuff online, like
Here,
especially
hold on a
gaming.
second. You're getting really bad feedback. Hold on.
Bad feedback. Hold on.
Okay.
Can you turn down your volume?
Can you turn down your volume a little bit?
Let me check. So it should be this one.
Right. So, you know, they've been around since early 2014, and I think that Bitcoin Vietnam did have a live trading exchange, and that will come back eventually. And currently, bitcoinvietnam.com.vn is kind of like a Coinbase service where you can make an account and buy Bitcoins, and you can get a connection from a Vietnamese bank. Right, Dominic?
Yeah, you can send money to any bank in the country. And actually what we also can do is you don't need to have even a bank account. We also can send money to just your ID. You just go to the bank and collect it in cash. You don't need to have a bank account with the bank. Other cash out possibilities will follow soon, but yeah, we have quite a lot of things on our to-do list, so it takes time to get work through all of this.
Okay, and what about the future of Bitcoin in Vietnam?
I did not really get the last question now because it was again lagging a bit.
Okay, I was just wondering what you see as the future of Bitcoin in Vietnam. Do you see people using it more for remittances? Do you see there being a lot of people that want to trade or want to hedge their currency risk? I don't know, you know, what if the Vietnamese dollar is going up or down in comparison with, you know, the dollar or the euro right now. We see a lot of turbulence in the markets. If people are interested in Bitcoin because they see the Shanghai exchange crashing, or, why are people coming to Bitcoin? I believe you said that you did have more people signing up, and what are they going to use Bitcoin for, and what do you think the future holds? Doing my best to unmute you. Just a second. I don't know why.
What you're trying to ask me? Actually, we see all of these use cases happening. As said, there are people buying Bitcoins really to pay stuff online. There are people also buying Bitcoins to do some remittance, for example, to the Philippines. People who are more these investor types, they start to coming back now. We also saw a few people investing in Bitcoin before. Then we also have people selling Bitcoins, where they have large mining operations going on here in Vietnam. Some people are selling Bitcoins to us because they are paying some people here with Bitcoin basically, and they are cashing it out to Vietnam Dong then. So all of these use cases basically, I think, are quite interesting. And as I said, also with the travel agency, it's kind of risk to be the first one, but they are really quite happy to accept Bitcoin, because with this they never had trouble. When they had one payment received via Bitcoin, they know it's final and they don't have any trouble, opposed to the payments which they receive with credit cards. So, and especially when you look at the e-commerce sector in Vietnam, there is definitely a high need for secure and fast online payment methods. And at the moment, most e-commerce in Vietnam still works with cash on delivery. So the people are ordering online, getting the stuff delivered, and then paying cash. But of course, you still have a high dropout rate, because people think then, maybe I don't want this, and then send it back and don't pay it. And so it's a problem also for the online merchants. Vietnam has the highest number of credit card fraud in the region. It's, I think, 5 times higher than the average in Southeast Asia. And as I said, the guy from the travel agency, they have to work with the bank basically every week to figure out some of these issues. And so it's also not really a convenient method to receive payments. And I think Bitcoin, it will take time. We are already at the early days here, but I think it also has an opportunity to spread here to that merchants accept it as a secure online payment method.
Okay, that's really interesting. I didn't realize that credit card fraud was so high in that part of the world. So if people want to get involved locally, is there a Saigon meetup, or how can people get in touch? I mean, we've got bitcoinvietnam.com.vn. You also have the Remittance site, which is cash2vn.com. I'll be putting these links in the description for anyone listening or watching right now. So how can people get in touch with you if they're in Vietnam or Southeast Asia and want to do something with Bitcoin?
Yeah, actually, we launched the public meetup group Bitcoin Saigon last November. So it's basically then the second meetup group, which I was co-founding after Frankfurt. It is so far the first public meetup group which we have in Vietnam. There's also some kind of community in Hanoi, but it's more locals, and it's more this close circle of friends who know each other since 3 years from the early mining days. So it's a bit more close, and they don't really have these meetups where you also have speakers and this kind of stuff. So in Saigon, we have the community going since last November. Usually have around once in a month a talk in a co-working space with projector and everything like this. And also started now just last month to have some more beginner-friendly social gathering events where really people can come and ask and get their first wallet installed and this kind of stuff. Because the talks at the meetups are usually a bit more high level, so it's a bit difficult for complete new people who don't even know how it works with an address and wallets and so far. this is more than for the people who are already into Bitcoin to learn new things. So quite similar, like the events which we had basically in Frankfurt before, where we also were meeting in a co-working space and then had talks to different kind of topics, sometimes technical talks, sometimes more the finance and economics background of Bitcoin. So trying to cover a broad range of topics.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Well, we're going to wrap it up there. And thanks everyone for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, like this video, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up. Also check out CoinGecko.com and altcoinpress.com that support this show. Also, don't forget to check out bitcoinvietnam.com.cn, cash2vn.com. I'll put all the links in the description. And Dominic, any closing words?
Yeah, just that the link is correct. It's .com.vn, not CN. CN would be China, so .vn for Vietnam. Yeah, otherwise, I'm really excited to see where this is going now, and I think Southeast Asia has a lot of potential for Bitcoin. I mean, you see it in the Philippines already, where they have really developed ecosystem already, and just the regulatory burden is much lower here in this region of the world than it is in the Western nations, where they are quite scared about this Bitcoin innovation. They pull a lot of regulatory burdens, which make it harder to start a business over there. So I'm optimistic for Asia.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for coming on, Dominic. That was transmission number 41. See you next time.